I don't think I've worn a suit in a while.
Very well-dressed suit.
I had to. I didn't want to get hate on Instagram because people are like, you can't wear sweatpants as a lawyer. I'm like, okay, I'll suit up, I guess.
But dude, you look good in a suit, man.
Thank
so
you.
I gotta tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're like a very tall Indian man.
Thank you. Thank you, man. You guys are making me blush, man.
Well, welcome back, guys, to another episode of Broswhoclose with our.
What's going on, man?
There we go. That's we've
Signature
like,
fist
really packed this down. I think we kept it over like every episode. Like we have, like if you look back at our first episode,
they're so bad.
It was fucking horrendous.
We had these mics, and then we would like
go
just,
around the
fucking
mics, try to fist bump, and like
we've nailed it down.
We've now nailed it down. So we're joined today by Nikhil Bajaj. He's a lawyer, an experienced real estate lawyer, and entrepreneur with over 10 years in the legal industry. He's a founder of his second startup law firm, specializing in real estate law.
And he's a very well-dressed man.
Thank you.
Well-dressed.
I appreciate that.
He
Not
actually-
always.
I mean, I've always seen you in a suit, buddy, except for when you dropped off something at my house one time.
That's right. Yeah. I probably came in sweatpants.
At that point, you were not.
Yeah.
And then the funny story is Nikhil, we were talking about this earlier. Nikhil messaged me on Instagram last night, and he goes, "Are you guys wearing a suit?" I go, "Fuck no."
I don't think I've worn a suit in a while.
Very well-dressed suit.
I had to. I didn't want to get hate on Instagram because people are like, you can't wear sweatpants as a lawyer. I'm like, okay, I'll suit up, I guess.
But dude, you look good in a suit, man.
Thank
so
you.
I gotta tell you that.
Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
like a
that.
very tall Indian man.
Thank you. Thank you, man. You guys are making me blush, man.
Are you turning red already,
Actually,
Nikhil?
yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So tell us, I think we were chatting earlier and, we kind of suggested like, our podcast is really about sales, entrepreneurship, leading the way. So tell us about your journey. Like, where did it start?
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey. I wasn't always in law, to be quite honest. I was actually supposed to be an engineer, believe it or not. Yeah, I was studying. Yeah, I was studying mechatronics engineering. I think I did a video on this recently, but I talked about how it's okay to pivot in life. So I was studying engineering, and then I switched to criminology, and then I ended up going to law school in Windsor. I originally wanted to become a criminal lawyer, believe it or not. And then I spoke to an individual who was a criminal lawyer, and I just didn't really, align with his lifestyle. So I said, okay, now I got to pivot again, but into a different area of law. So I did litigation, didn't enjoy litigation, and then eventually kind of real estate sprung upon me from a lawyer who was a mentor in the industry. So I joined him, I learned everything from him, and then eventually I went off on my own. So I've always enjoyed real estate. I like investing in real estate, so I said, why not just kind of tailor my legal endeavors to real estate. So I've never looked back, and it's been good. It's been a good journey. I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy dealing with people in the industry too. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into real estate law.
That's awesome, man.
Long story short, yeah.
Did you? You said you wanted to be an engineer. Was that coming through family or?
Yeah. So most of my family, they were engineers. So my uncles, my dad's an engineer as well. My dad also ran an engineering distribution company, still does. It's a family company. So the plan was for me to step into my dad's shoes and take over the company. I still help my dad a lot with the company right now. I still have that engineering knowledge, but it just really wasn't something I enjoyed. My dad loves what he does, and he always said you should love what you do. So I didn't love engineering. I kind of did love law, and I loved real estate. So that's kind of why I decided to pivot. But yeah,
you still made him proud because you checked one of the boxes: doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. He has free legal advice for life, right? He'll be like, "Look at this, draft this," and I'm like, I'm not getting paid for this. Yeah, but so no, he's proud, right? Yeah. So I'm happy. I wasn't a disappointment. It could have gone both ways.
Our dad was an engineer too.
No way.
He's retired now, mechanical engineer. I mean, it's the same
nice.
story, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone from India is either a lawyer, doctor, engineer,
Yeah.
and he was a mechanical engineer.
Nice.
And I think either of us were too dumb to go in those fields.
Yeah, my dad was a mechanical engineer as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, we were disappointed when I first told my dad that we were gonna be. I was gonna become a realtor. I think his jaw dropped. He's like, "What the fuck do you mean?"
Yeah, you gonna sell homes? Whose house are you gonna sell?
Yeah.
How many homes can you sell?
Yeah.
But
it's a great lifestyle. So what made that switch? So you worked in corporate for a bit before you started your own business?
So I didn't work in corporate. Luckily, I had the entrepreneurial mindset because I learned a lot from my dad. So I used to work in his company all the time in the summers, during school. But just kind of learning from him. And it wasn't one of those things where he just kind of gave me an office job right away. He would say, sit down with the bookkeeper, sit down with my admin, go in the warehouse, learn how we stock inventory. So I used to work in the warehouse as well, and learning kind of all the roles it takes to run a company. That's kind of what the skill set that I took and implemented into my own business. So we started a firm back in 2018. That firm's still around, a good friend of mine. And I sold my share in that firm back in, I think, December of 2022. Then I started Marathon Law back in April of 2023. But been in the industry since 2015. But getting back to your original question, it was just mainly my family business that gave me that entrepreneurial mindset on how to run a business. So if it wasn't for Rotator Products, which is the engineering company, and being able to see how many pieces there are, how many moving pieces there are in running a company, I wouldn't be able to have Marathon Law or the previous law firm that I had. So, yeah.
And it's something we said, right? Like even our previous guest today, it was the same journey. Like he kind of went through that same journey of like, as a child, he was thrown into this entrepreneurship role because his parents owned multiple businesses, and he was kind of helping out everywhere. And then, that's the mindset he acquired, and dropped out of high school and then just became this kick-ass entrepreneur, right? So it's something to be said definitely about, if you grow up in a family that's full of entrepreneurship, or full of entrepreneurs, I should say, that you already have that mindset going in, like, oh, you know what, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it, because I've already seen it, how it can be successful.
Yeah, and looking back at on my life, I was recently talking to my wife, and there were so many things that I used to, I used to hate when I was younger. My mom was like, "Let's go deliver newspapers." I'm like, "I don't want to do this. I want to go outside and play." Right. So as a kid, we used to deliver newspapers, and then my mom started selling toys to Kumon. I don't know if you guys know Kumon is a tutoring service. Yeah. So Kumon basically used to have these prizes if you hit a certain milestone, if you got a certain grade. So they were just dollar store toys. So my mom ended up connecting with a bunch of Kumons, and she used to wholesale toys. So we used to have these cheap toys in our basement that we used to literally fill up the trunk and drop them off to different Kumon centers. And I hated it as a kid. And then eventually I ended up, studying at Kumon. I guess my mom got a good deal because she was supplying the toys. I don't know, right? And then eventually when I was in high school, I ended up getting a job at Kumon. So my mom made connections with Kumon, and they were able to give me a job. And that was other than delivering newspapers, that was my proper first job. And then eventually in university, I'm like, yes, I can enjoy university. My mom's like, no, you got to work while you're in university too. So I ended up working in telemarketing in university. And I used to resent my parents. I'm like, why do they make me work? Why do they make me do these things? But it was because they wanted me to be prepared for the real world. And looking back, it was the best decision that they ever made.
That's awesome, man. So hold on. You said you used to work in telemarketing?
I was a telemarketer for like 3 years. We used to sell National Post newspapers and ADT alarms.
Wow. And ADT alarms.
ADT. It was the same company. We used to sell ADT alarms and National Post newspapers.
And these were cold calls.
These were cold calls. I used to get yelled at all the time.
I worked at Yellow Pages for years, and
I was his first client, by the way.
He was one of my clients.
No first way.
I called him. I'm like, buy this shit. He's like, all right. I think he still has it.
I still have it.
Yellow,
freaking
Yellow Pages. Physical Yellow
Pages. So Yellow Pages, they finally decided to pivot into like the digital world.
That's right. Yeah.
And then ended up anyway. That whole company got dissolved. But what they had was at the time, they would rank really well on Google, right? And you type in realtor in Etobicoke or plumber in so-and-so, and Yellow Pages would show up on the first page of Google. And my whole thing was, hey, look, do you want to get more clients? I would cold call people. And who doesn't want more clients, right? And so I'd tell them, hey, look, I can get you first page of Google. And then they're like, okay, how? And then I'd just get them on a demo. I'd show them.
Smart.
And then be like, boom, Yellow Pages, and I can make you the first person. And then I would have the pricing tiers. If you want to be the first guy on that page, here it is. But yeah, it sucked, man, because you had to prospect, cold call. How were you finding your leads there?
So with regards to how am I getting leads?
Yeah, how
are you getting those cold leads?
Honestly, so we don't do any advertising outside of social media. So we don't do any Facebook ads. We don't do any Instagram ads. I do want to get into that because I want to automate our business. Right now, it's just been based on relationships, doing stuff like this. So meeting people, meeting them for coffee, meeting them for lunch, dinners, events. So that's kind of how we've built up our business. But since we've started posting content on Instagram, it's literally just become organic. So people will message us. They'll ask us follow-up questions on a video if they actually watch it. Or they'll ask us, can you close a deal? I have a deal closing in a week or 2 weeks. I don't have a lawyer. I saw your video. I saw that you do real estate law. Can you help me? And I'm like, 100%, because we have a team put in place, right? When we started, it was just me and my wife, right? She's part of the business. She's an operations manager. And now we have about 8 staff. So we've put staff in place to service those clients that need help last minute, for example, like a last minute closing. So Instagram has been really powerful for us in terms of generating leads organically now, because the more videos we post, we find that the more followers we get, and then in turn, the more leads that we get off Instagram.
It's something you said about that, right? It's so funny because, a law firm relying on Instagram to get leads, that's so new gen.
I'm exposing my secret right now.
Yeah, right? But like,
yeah.
But the thing is, man, like, I know a lot of real estate lawyers, of course, like through the industry, we meet them every day, and there's very few people utilizing that channel to get clients.
100%.
Right? So how important is that? Like, how important is sales to like your business, right? Like, ultimately.
Yeah, no, it's
and relationships.
It's relationships and sales are extremely important to our business, and I think that it's funny because Instagram wasn't really a tool for lawyers until recently, right? Yeah. But I've been using it for like the last 5-6 years. And I've gotten some of the biggest clients off Instagram, even more than just meeting people at events. So I think that you need to have a mix of many things. One is obviously meeting people face to face, because some people like that personable, interaction, like doing a podcast or meeting for coffee. So I enjoy that on my end. If somebody meets me in person, I'd rather do business with them as opposed to a Zoom or just like a DM. Right. But I think Instagram is a powerful tool to get your foot through the door, right? Where if you message them on Instagram, most of the time, I would say 75% of the time they'll respond. They may not be willing to meet you for a coffee, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, but the ROI is pretty significant on Instagram. It's about 75%, I would say. If I had to come up with a percentage,
I say this to people all the time.
That's crazy.
Is Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, these are free marketing channels.
For now.
For now. That's a great point. For now, it's free. It's like having free television, right?
Yeah.
And, people say, I'm posting videos and I'm only getting 100 views. I'm like, do you know what a room full of 100 people looks like?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I have a YouTube channel and I don't have a lot of subscribers, and I get views on my videos that I talk about specific things. But I would rather have fewer views but engaged followers than have 1 million views with no engagement or no conversions, right? And if you're seeing 75% of that kind of metric that you talked about for free, that's insane.
75% of people will actually entertain your message and respond and do a coffee with you or a Zoom with you. Will they send you a deal? I mean, I would have to come up with a percentage in my mind that works. Maybe I would say 35 to 40% may send you a deal.
Right.
It may not be real estate related. It might be corporate related, wills, litigation. But I would say 75% of people will actually, meet you in person or on Zoom. Which is pretty good,
That's crazy, man. Like, going back to the same point, it's like, it's never been a very traditional channel for lawyers to network in. And
why do you think the lawyers aren't using that channel?
I think that lawyers might be hesitant to, posting is a separate issue, but in terms of posting, I think they're hesitant to give legal advice. They're afraid that it's going to come back and bite them.
Right.
Most of what we talk about on our social media channel, it's really general knowledge. We also have the caveat that this is not legal advice.
Right.
If you do need legal advice, you can always retain us. But I also think that a lot of them are scared to put themselves out there. I was, right? I'm a lawyer. What kind of lawyers on social media? I mean, in the States, there's a lot of them, especially in personal injury and criminal. There's a lot of people on TikTok, and they're very eccentric. But I said, okay, if they're doing it, why can't I do it? And not to say that there's not real estate lawyers doing it now. I wouldn't say I was the first. There's a couple on social media that have been doing it. But I think that, people are just scared. They don't want to put themselves out there. They see themselves as this professional. People should come to me. They need me. But I mean, it's reciprocal, right? Like, we need clients, obviously.
Of course.
I think it's a great way to get your foot through the door, as opposed to going on LinkedIn or emailing somebody, would you be free to meet for a coffee? I mean, let's be honest, man. Most of those LinkedIn messages, for me at least, it's not that I'm ignoring them, but I don't check LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
And emails, if I get those automated emails to my inbox, it's not very personable. But if you go out of your way and message someone on Instagram, it's like meeting someone at a conference. It's the same thing at the end of the day. It's like, wow, this guy actually went out of his way to message me. And my friend always had this theory, right? He used to say, like, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm happily married, obviously. But he used to always have this theory back before I was married. Let me state that. So he's like, if you see a very attractive woman at the bar, majority of people don't want to approach that woman. They're scared. They're like, everyone's probably approaching her. I don't have a chance, right? But usually, no one's approaching her. You have more of a chance than maybe, someone who's, I'm not saying like less attractive, but I'm just saying that at the end of the day, like you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
No, Nikhil, please explain.
I'm saying that if you see like prior to marriage, a very attractive woman, right? Most people are not approaching her because they're intimidated, they're scared, right? So it's the same thing for us, right? Like we're intimidated, we're scared to reach out to that big investor, right? Or that big realtor, that big mortgage broker. We're scared. But, you know, if you shoot your shot, they might appreciate it and say, wow, someone's actually reaching out to me. They're willing to, you know, round up the courage to actually message me. Why wouldn't I give them a chance?
Yeah, you know, it's 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Yeah,
so it's the same thing with the attractive lady. It's the same thing with asking for business. Yeah. But also, I think being on Instagram and on socials as a lawyer, because when I think of lawyers, traditionally, I think of these serious people, right? And like they're wearing suits and they're behind these desks and they're intimidating. But being on social, it shows your personality and you become so much more approachable. Yeah, and when you reach out, they're like, oh my God, it's just like a
regular dude.
He's a regular dude and I want to work with him. Because I see him on video and he's just a regular guy.
Yeah, you're right. I think the traditional lawyer is the guy that's in a suit, sitting behind a mahogany desk with his gavel and his leather textbook. Even if you come to our office, we've made it a very open, a comfortable office environment for our staff and for our clients. Like if you come in, you're going to see a lot of inspirational quotes, kind of like what you guys had in your office. You're going to see a lot of cool artwork. It's all open concept glass. We don't have mahogany desks.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you, do you have mahogany?
No, it's like when you walk into our office, it's like a startup. People come in and they're like, cool. This is a law office. I'm like, yeah, we want people to feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with myself and our staff. We want to make people feel comfortable and personable, not that traditional intimidating lawyer that you don't want to work with.
Yeah. So true. I mean, you know, to your point earlier, I think, you know, if you put yourself out there like that, like I remember stories of us, you know, cold calling investors and, you know, there's something to be said about them actually appreciating because not a lot of agents cold call anymore at all. Right? Like everyone's trying to be on like on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever have you, which is fine. Like it's they're you know, of course, we get business from there. Yeah. However, like when we were cold calling, they really appreciate because it does take a lot of courage to like call and ask for business, right? Like it's a really weird thing to do. Well, I shouldn't say weird, but like it's very, you know, you really have to get out of your out of your head. Like, hey, I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'm gonna cold call somebody. What if he says this or what if he says that? And it's the same thing for you. Like going on Instagram and putting yourself out there.
When you started out as a lawyer, when you first right out the gate, like how were you getting clients? And what was your approach?
So originally, I thought that maybe I can just dip into my own network, family, you know, friends. But at the preliminary stages, and I don't blame them, people are kind of hesitant to send you business because they're like always new in the game. He's fresh. And some people just don't want you knowing their business at the end of the day, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So, okay, that didn't work. So what do I do now? So I would look at similar people that were starting off in their careers as realtors, as mortgage brokers, and I would collaborate with them, and I would say, you know what, let's do events together. We can support each other's business. So a lot of the people that were actually growing at the same time as us, we kind of collaborated and we sent each other business. So that's kind of how originally we were getting business because we were just starting fresh and we connected with fresh realtors, fresh mortgage brokers. And then eventually when we made a name for ourselves, we reached out to the bigger fish, right? So brokerages, mortgage brokerages, real estate brokerages. And we told them, we're like, we'll sponsor your next event. We'll do training sessions for your staff. Obviously, we're not being compensated. We're paying for it. We're supplying, whether it's lunch, dinner, coffee, whether it's, you know, just paying for your event. We're willing to do that. So we invested a lot in that, and it actually paid off. It was a good ROI. So I think that at the end of the day, you have to invest in your business. If it's going to come down to, you know, you having to sponsor a big real estate event, why not? You're going to be in a room full of realtors or mortgage brokers, and you're going to get a deal out of it. As long as you're putting yourself out there, you're going to get a deal out of it. And we still do that. We still go to a lot of events, sponsor a lot of events. We don't just sit behind a table. We go out and network, and we always end up getting business from those events.
I think the first time I met you was at an event.
Yeah,
possibly.
Scale Your Results event, I think in Hotel X, or maybe even when you did one at the Royal, the Fairmont, maybe. It was at an event.
It was at Hotel X. You guys spoke at that event. I remember now. Yeah.
And then I saw your sign at Marathon Law. I'm like, so it makes sense. You were collaborating.
That was the first event that we did.
Nice.
Yeah, for Marathon Law. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like you sponsored.
That was the first event that we did.
That's
and
awesome.
And what we did was we had a little fishbowl, and we had a prize. So put your cards in the fishbowl, and you'll win a prize. Yeah. So for us, it's like, oh, we're getting realtors, mortgage brokers cards, right? Yeah. So that's kind of and it works. You follow up, and then eventually someone's willing to entertain you, and then hopefully it can lead to a deal. You just got to put yourself out there. Instagram, I don't do TikTok. I will eventually, but Instagram, events, meeting people. I always talk about this as a joke in a lot of my videos, but like in the sauna, right? We met one of our biggest referrals in the sauna. Just talk to people. Like when you talk to people,
catch them when they're vulnerable.
Yeah. You can't go anywhere, right? I'm gonna lock the door. I can sit in here for an hour, buddy. Yeah.
So what percentage of your business, as I say, as an entrepreneur, because that's what I truly look at you, right? Like whether you're in real estate, whether you're in law, whether you're in mortgage, like whatever have you, at heart, you're an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Like what percentage of what you do is really spend on prospecting? And then what percentage of your work is then spent on actually doing the work?
Yeah.
Now,
I would say it's definitely 50-50. So we're still involved with every file that comes in through the door. I do have a partner as well in the firm. So we're hands-on with every single file. I'm not just saying that because I know a lot of firms will delegate everything to their clerks. Mm-hmm. That's not to say we don't. So, I mean, we have a receptionist that takes phone calls. We have clerks that will help prepare paperwork. But in terms of vetting the deal from beginning to end, we're heavily involved. So I say 50%, 50% of it's being involved in the actual day-to-day work, 50% is prospecting. And it's not anything specific. It's literally going to events, meeting people for coffee. It can be messaging 2-3 people on Instagram every single day. So I would say it's 50-50. And if, most of my day, let's say from 9 to 6, I'm working, I will make time to prospect. So I can shoot somebody a DM. I can call somebody. I can, ask somebody if they're free for dinner. It doesn't have to be a new client. It can be an existing client, right? Who I haven't seen maybe in the last couple of months, or a realtor or a mortgage broker. And I'll say, let's go for a drink, right? It's simple, just to maintain that relationship. Because I think the most overlooked thing in our business is actually maintaining the relationship. 100%. We think, okay, we have the relationship, they're going to continue working with us, right? Yeah. I mean, eventually they're going to forget about you. Another realtor, mortgage broker, lawyer is going to connect with them, and you're going to lose that business.
So true.
So maintenance is important.
And you know what? I truly believe in that, right? Because the people that you've already done business with, they already know you, they already trust you, they've already done business with you. Like, it's easy for them to send you a second piece of business. But that relationship aspect of it is so critical. And a lot of people, whether it's being with, other service providers, or whether it be from your own, like to be your own clients, is a lot of entrepreneurs, I should say, in general, like ignore that relationship. Yeah. Because to your point, like, oh, they've already done a deal with me before, they are going to come to me. They almost take it for granted. Yeah. And that's the easiest deal you're going to get, is because they've already done business with you before.
Least friction, least expensive, the highest ROI is sitting right in your database. People you've already done business with. Right? 100%. I like that you every day, so you said every day you set aside some time to do prospect, even if it's an email.
Yeah, every single day.
That's awesome, man. Do you think most lawyers are doing that, or are they not?
I don't know. I mean, I have colleagues in the industry that are as driven, if not more driven than me, to be quite honest. So I would say most lawyers are probably not doing it because they also want some kind of work-life balance. Right. And that's something that I'm struggling with myself, work-life balance. What is that? Does that even exist, right? So like for example, if I want to go on vacation, I tell people I'm on vacation. They call me, I'm like, it might be something urgent. Somebody might be losing their house, or there might be an issue. So finding that work-life balance, I think some lawyers have accomplished that, where they know, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm very content with where I am today. I don't need more business. I don't need to go out there and prospect, right? But then there's somebody who's starting off in the industry, and he has a mortgage to pay. He has kids. So he's driven. So he's prospecting probably every day. But I don't think too many lawyers are doing it, only because some of them are comfortable, or they're just content, and they just want that balance in life, which I don't have, to be quite honest.
Yeah. And there's just talking about that balance in life, or being content, right? I think one of my mentors, when I first started in the industry, I used to work corporate. When I started working there, one of my manager's manager, said one thing to me. He goes, because at that point I was very interested in like climbing the corporate ladder and like how I could get my next promotion. That's how I was chasing. I was chasing my next promotion, right? As like, and he said one thing to me. He was very important. It still stuck to me today. And he goes, a man's career will stop where he wants it to, right? And that's being about content. Is like, if you're making, X amount of dollars every single year, you know that you don't have to really, any deeper to get more. You're content. You're happy with. You're happy. And then again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you want in your life at that point. But then for some of us, I'm the same way. I have no work-life balance. On vacation, I'm on vacation. I'll still pick up calls.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing, and then the spouse doesn't really understand that. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we're on vacation, buddy.
Yeah, you got to be present in those moments too, right? I had this conversation with a colleague recently where you have to be present. Like when you're not working and you kind of want to enjoy with your family and your friends, it's hard to be present sometimes because you're thinking about a file or thinking about a client, and you're like, shit, am I really actually enjoying this moment, right? So I think
there's stages you can go through, right? Like when you're starting out, I'm sure when you were first starting out, you're probably like just completely bombarded with work all the time.
100%.
And maybe now you're getting to a place in your life where you can be like, you know what? I can probably figure out a way to, now that I've done all this legwork, be able to leverage or delegate and then actually be present in those moments. You've worked up to this point to make that happen. Whereas there's some people who never figure that out, and they're constantly just always at the mercy of the clients or mercy of their business, right? And I'm trying to get to a place where I'm more like I can be more present when I'm at home with my partner, when I'm away. And I think it's just about like, there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people struggle to find that way, or they're just constantly at the mercy of of the business of the client.
Yeah. And you got to learn how to say no.
Yeah.
One of my friends was saying yesterday, the power of saying no, right? You just learn how to say no to certain clients and certain, we get a lot of issues that we deal with where the client has these unrealistic expectations. And sometimes you're like, can I figure out a way to help them? But sometimes you just got to say, no, I can't. Right.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with that. I think, we went through that in the beginning of my career. I would just say yes to everything. Right? Like, oh, you want to do that? Oh, you want me to come and clean your house? No problem. Like, it's just, everything was a yes, right?
Yeah.
And then now I'm just like, you know what? Like, no, I know where to focus my energy and my efforts, right? Like, it's just, if you focus your energy and your efforts to the right thing at the right time, you'll be happy. You'll have a more fulfilled life. You won't have as much stress in life. So again, like, it's very important to say no. But just on that point, because as you're trying to scale Marathon Law and as you're scaling your business, how important is delegation?
I think delegation is really important. It's hard to delegate in our industry only because you're dealing with the referral, you're dealing with the client. And sometimes when you delegate a certain task, it kind of pisses off the client or the referral. Oh, like, why are you delegating it to your clerk? Why are they dealing with it? You should be dealing with it yourself. I think certain things you should 100% delegate. So phone calls, for example, we have everything that goes to a receptionist, and then she basically filters out the call, because sometimes people are just calling for nonsense, right? And they'll call you. They have an issue, and they'll take up an hour of your time, and there's really no solution. I can't really help them because it's not even within my realm of expertise. Not to say I won't help them. I might, refer them to somebody that could, whether it's like an accounting question or anything else. Because we get a lot of people that think we're accountants too, but we're not. So I think delegation is important, but I like to micromanage a lot. So if I'm dealing with a file or a sensitive client, I know that if it's not done a certain way and my staff may not do it that way, I'll be very, very hands-on and micromanage. So delegation is something that I'm struggling with as well. But if it wasn't for my staff, I wouldn't be able to do these things, and I wouldn't be able to be on the road meeting clients. So right now we're kind of figuring out, do we want to go completely hands-off on certain things, or do we want to micromanage? Because right now we oversee everything, and we have an operations manager who helps with that, but me and my partner Rohit, we're still very hands-on with every client. But I think that's also allowed us to maintain the reputation that we have, and it makes referrals really happy, and it makes clients really happy. But you're always gonna have that client who's never happy as well, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
For sure.
So,
And I think in our business too, I think, if I look back, first 10 years when I first started, I think I was doing everything, right? I think we talked about in one of the episodes, like I was going to put lockboxes, I was putting up signs, doing paperwork, like, and I hated that shit, and I sucked at it, right? And I still do, and I thank God for it. Now it's like, oh my God, like I just, I think over time I've just learned to be like, you know what, it's okay to like just
you have to. You
just kind of have to.
I actually had recently a client that, because we're going through the same process now, like, I was like onboarded a new buyer who came from one of my social media channels. Buyer pre-approved, ready to go, and I did the first buyer consultation with him, and I go, hey, listen, so one of the first things I do on that call is I set the expectation, hey, we're a team, and we leverage each of our strengths in the team. I'm going to be watching and overseeing everything, because the first question he asked was, hey, am I still going to work with you? I go, 100%. I'm your guy. I'm going to be behind this whole deal. I pass it on to another agent who's on our team. I said, he's going to be helping you with the showings, with the visitations. He's also going to talk to the agents and write your offer. Rest assured, I'm here. And so one of the things we do is that, I set up a group chat. And I have that agent and I have the clients. I want them to know that I'm present throughout the whole journey, and I'll chime in every now and then. So but that's kind of the way that I've figured out how to kind of maneuver around this.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly in touch with the agent. I'm like, hey, listen, so what's going on? Like, what are they saying? Do you need my help? Do you need me to step in? And every weekly, every 2 weeks, I'll check in with the client. Hey, how are things going? Do you have any questions for us? Right. But I think for me, I realized it's setting those expectations early on and saying, hey, this is how we can get you the best service as a team. And then chat, or this particular agent's the one who's going to be overseeing everything, but I'm here
100%,
quarterbacking back in this whole thing.
Yeah, and then I also feel that had it not been for those processes that we have in place, I don't think we'll be able to serve the clients to the service level we serve.
You're right.
If we did everything,
Yeah,
there's no way that we could, like, right now I'm sitting here shooting this podcast with you. There's work still happening on the background. There's listing packages being signed, listing presentation, listings being signed. Like, all that stuff is still happening behind the scenes. And groups are the same thing. Like I said, we implemented this process in our team where it was like, you know what? Like, if we're going to delegate certain tasks to another agent, we're just going to create a group chat. Client's happy, and then very rarely would a client ever say to, like, oh, you were not involved in this process.
Yeah.
Or, I haven't heard that. Anyway.
I haven't seen that yet either. Yeah.
So, it's a cool thing to, like, and without delegation, I don't think we can scale. Like,
100%, yeah.
But I think you're right, though. There are, like, you used the word sensitive clients earlier,
Yes.
and that stuck out to me. I'm like, you're going to have certain clients who are sensitive.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it, where you have to kind of handhold.
We give our I give my personal cell to every client. Referrals sometimes ask, or like, do you mind me giving the client your cell? And in my head, I'm like, fuck, right?
Not really.
Because it just depends, right? Like, if it's a client that's going to call me at 9 p.m. on a Saturday, do I want that? I mean, nobody wants that in any industry, right? So we do have clients that will literally call us at like 10, 11, midnight, sometimes like 2, 3 a.m.
What?
And you're just like, because in our industry, you're dealing with a lot of high volume.
Sure.
So you do get that client who's very, very, you got to hold their hand throughout the process. So they don't want to deal with the staff. They don't want to deal with the clerk, and they want to deal with the lawyer, even though the clerk can do a similar job to us, like just preparing a document, right? Or calling the other lawyer, what's happening with it? Do you have funds? Whatever it is, right? But yeah, some clients want to, but you can't, at the end of the day, the quality of your work suffers if the client's constantly following up with you, right? So you need to delegate certain tasks. So yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
it's funny, Nikhil, because the thing is, as agents, I mean, I've stopped taking those calls. I think that I just don't. Before I used to get very stressed if a client would like send me a message on WhatsApp. We use WhatsApp quite a bit. Message me on WhatsApp or call. I would get heart palpitations, thinking like I need to respond now, right? Like right now. And I think now I just feel like. I've come to a point where it's like, you know what? There's no real emergency in real estate. There just isn't. Like, it's just, there's nothing I can do or say to you at 2 o'clock in the morning that'll.
Yeah, I think most of it, dude. If you really think about it, most of it is just in our own head.
Yeah,
we're like, I have to get back to him, right? No, you don't. Like, and if you respond too quickly to somebody, they're gonna expect that every time.
Yeah, you set the precedent.
You set the precedent, right? So I do the same thing. Like, for example, last night I got a text at 9 p.m. My shut off is 9 p.m. Like, I'm with my partner. She's a business owner too. Like, she's very busy. I'm like, this is my time with her. We read, we do other shit, and then I'm like, I'll get back in the morning. If there's nothing unless I know it's urgent, something that needs attention. I won't really respond.
Yeah, like a life or death situation.
Yeah, like if it's a deal or whatever have you. However, you know what? The funny thing is, I've also started setting expectations with agents now. Like, agents come and put an offer on my deal. I'm like, listen, man, like. It's even if we do offer dates, our cutoff time for offer dates, it's 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like we don't.
It used to be like 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
And it would go till midnight.
And the thing is, it'll go up to like midnight, 12, 1 o'clock. Now it's like, you've had a week to show this property. Don't tell me that I love when agents come to me and say, well, they're working until 5 p.m. Like, They weren't yesterday, right? Like, why didn't you put this up yesterday? Yesterday after 5 o'clock, they knew already they were going to put an offer on this property. So I think our cutoff at 3 o'clock, and we're done for the most part. We're done with everything by 6:30. We're done.
It's good. You set that expectation.
We set that
The
expectation.
expectation,
It's all about like setting expectation to whether it being clients or agents or whatever have you. I think that for the most part we've stopped after 8 p.m. after 9 p.m. we just don't do it.
And I also truly believe this, that clients will respect you more when you set boundaries. And they're like, oh yeah, he's a busy guy and he's got he's got other stuff going on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I truly believe that.
Yeah,
and I think whatever you believe, you put out there. And I see that with clients. Like, I had a client call me yesterday and I returned the call the next day. I said, hey, I was busy with a lot of the other things, and I know it wasn't urgent. But he appreciated the call back. But again, there was, like you said earlier, nothing would have changed at like a call at 2 a.m.
100%, yeah.
But we do understand that sometimes it's like, if I'm trying to work on a deal, like, I also believe that time kills all deals. Right? If you just put up too much time in a deal and then, responding to that deal, that it'll just kill it. And yes, if I'm working on a deal or in the middle of a deal, sure, we'll take those occasional, we'll take those calls to make the deal happen. But for the most part, I think that, you should, we've come to value time, right? Like, it's, and it's funny you say that you give your cell phone numbers away to people, man.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So my very first, I don't use him anymore because, he's kind of pivoted his business away from this is years when I first started. It took me a decade to get a cell phone number. And the only reason he gave me a cell phone number is because I was picking up Raptors tickets. He gave me Raptors tickets every year.
Okay.
And I was picking up Raptors
We got
tickets.
those too, by the way. Just so you know. I got seasons. Yeah, just so you know. Yeah.
What section are they, Nikhil?
114 or something. Yeah, something like that. Maybe you're wrong, but they're 100 section. Yeah. They're good seats. We'll talk.
I've got 106, but 114, I'll take those.
Okay, yeah.
I was picking up Raptors tickets like at 7 p.m. and his office closed at 5. And he specifically said to me, I'm giving you a cell phone number, Saurabh. Do not call me on my cell phone number. But you know what? I appreciated that he told me that. Because I never have. I never called him on his cell. I knew that was his office hours. I called him in his office hours. And I also feel that as a law professional, like, the expectations are very different.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? Because you just like, the law office open from 9 to 5. Yeah. But again, like, just like Instagram, you're breaking the bounds of like, how accessible one can be.
It's funny because most people that talk to us that have been in the industry for a long time, they're like, you guys are 9 to 5 and you guys don't work on weekends, right? Like, can you get me, like, when can you do this status review for me or this pre-con review for me that the cooling off period expires? I said, I'm 7 days a week, man. Like, I'm 7 days a week. I work constantly. And this is not a bad thing, by the way. Like, we're 7 days a week. I give my cell phone number to everybody. They usually ask for it, too. They're like, what's the best line to reach you? And I'm like, well, my cell phone, right? And then I have my work line as well. So sometimes people will see my work line in my signature line, which doesn't have my cell phone line. But my work line actually connects to my cell phone, too. So either way, I'm accessible. Like, even if they call the work line, it's coming to my cell.
I think the more accessible you are, the more business you are going to pick up naturally.
Yeah, for
right?
100%, yeah. We're at that point now where we're beginning to, it's a good problem to have. We're beginning to say no to business.
Right.
Not that we don't want it, but like it comes down to service.
Pick and choose too, right? Your clients.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about your name. I don't think we talked about this. Marathon Law.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Yeah, it's a long story, but I'll keep it short. So basically, my law firm used to be partnered with another law firm, and that was the name of the firm before. So when I left, the law firm that I had left was Nikhil, Bajaj Law, which was a partner in another law firm. So I was just thinking about it. I'm like, Nikhil, Bajaj Law. I'm like, I love my name. God bless my parents for giving me this name. But I'm like, this is a pretty, not a good name for a law firm. Yeah, which law firm do you use? I use Nikhil Bajaj Law Professional Corporation. It's so long, right? Like, holy shit, like I get tired just saying it, right? So I was just thinking, and I'm sitting in bed, and my wife comes and she's like, "What are you thinking about?" I'm like, "I gotta figure out a name for this firm, right? Before I start advertising." So like I came up with logos like NBLPC. I'm like, this is stupid. So long story short, I was trying to think of a name that is relevant to law and it's applicable, and I've told this story on like 2 other podcasts, but I used to listen to this one artist growing up, and his name was Nipsey Hussle, and he passed away, unfortunately. But he used to always talk about, he's the reason I got into investing in real estate. So he talked about investing in real estate. So all the money he was making off his musical career, he was actually investing in real estate. So he bought a plaza in California. He was doing like developments. He had businesses. His brother just started a burger store called Marathon Burgers as well, in the U.S. though, right? And so anyway, so I'm like, I like the name Marathon a lot, right? Because he always talks about life's a marathon, business is a marathon. And I liked his music. So I'm like, Nav, what do you think about Nav's my wife? I'm like, what do you think about the name Marathon Law? Because it's very applicable to law. Because law is a marathon. It's never ending. You close a deal for somebody, then eventually they go back and sell, or they need a will, or they need corporate work, whatever it is, right? Like clients always come back eventually. Maybe they need their paperwork, they lost it. So it's actually a marathon. So she's like, I love the name. She's like, let's do it. So we came up with the name Marathon Law. I amended my last name, Nikhil Bajaj Law, Professional Corporation, to Marathon Law. And so it stuck. People liked it. We came up with a logo, and we haven't looked back ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so Marathon Law was basically inspired by a musical artist, but at the same time, it was applicable to what we do. Yeah.
I didn't know that about Nipsey Hussle being like, I listened to his music.
Yeah.
I didn't know his backstory on being a real estate investor.
He was a huge real estate investor. He bought a pretty big plaza in LA and rezoned it to develop, I believe, apartment buildings.
Right.
And then passed away. So I think it went to his fiance or wife and his brother.
Right.
But they owned a lot of real estate. Yeah, he was a huge, and he talked about it when he was like 15 or 16, maybe a little bit older, where he was young, and there's this interview, it's a famous interview, and they're like, what are you going to buy with all your money that you make off being a musical artist? And he's wearing chains, and they're like, are you going to buy chains, watches? He's like, no, I'm going to invest in real estate. I'm just like, what? I'm like, and I was young too when I saw that. I'm like, real estate, like, what is this guy talking about? And he always talked about in his songs too, like investing in commercial real estate. And I used to pick up on that stuff. I'm like, this guy's smart. I like what he talks about in his music. It's not about, the typical shit that you talk about in music, negative stuff. Bitches, right?
And all
that. It's negative.
Like
it's negative. It's negative. He's actually giving you the roadmap in his music that you may not like rap or hip hop or find it abrasive, but look what he's talking about. Just listen, right? You got to listen. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So
besides law, you also invest in real estate.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Like so tell us about how that came about.
Yeah, so I started buying real estate. The first thing I ever bought was a townhouse in Waterloo, and the reason I bring up the first thing I bought, because that opened up literally the roadmap for me to buy other properties. So I bought a property in Waterloo, and it was a shithole. Like it was an absolute shithole. And
Do you still have it?
No, so we picked it up for $270,000 back in 2017 or 2018. And I'm not going to say, like, I bought it from this company. I'm not going to say the company's name because I have a lot of respect for the company. They got me a good deal on it. So $270,000. So we ended up refinancing it, pulling out equity, and we ended up buying a property in the East Coast in New Brunswick. So the reason I went to New Brunswick was because there was a lot of good opportunity out there. It was cheap, number one. Number two, it just seemed like a good market with a low vacancy rate. So I'm like, why isn't anyone buying down here? It doesn't make sense. So we bought a property down there. And then that property we flipped. We started flipping properties, and whatever money we made, we invested it back into real estate in the East Coast. So we ended up buying a house that we turned into an Airbnb. We ended up buying a duplex. Then we ended up buying a bigger building, and then we just kept doing that in the East Coast. So we kept everything in the East Coast except for the properties that we flipped, obviously. This is just me and my wife, by the way. And then whatever money we started making in the East Coast, we brought it back to Ontario, because we actually moved to the East Coast for about a year and a half to focus on these investments. So, so whatever money we made, we brought it back to Ontario and then started aggressively investing in Ontario. So the East Coast gave us the ability to actually buy more in Ontario because we pulled out equity there.
Right.
Yeah, and I haven't looked back. So multifamily is mainly what we buy, and then we recently started acquiring land as well.
That's
nice.
awesome.
And where are you buying land, Nikhil?
So first place we bought was obviously the East Coast, New Brunswick. We picked up a little bit of land there. And then recently we picked up land in Simcoe County.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's different, right? Because it's a very different ballgame. Because real estate investing, when you talk about, you're like, oh, how much cash flow. Well, land game is very different because you're banking.
Yeah,
right?
land banking,
Yeah, so all you're doing is you're acquiring and you're holding for long periods of time.
Yeah, and the beauty about land is everyone talks about appreciation, and there's nothing wrong with buying a house or a condo and banking on appreciation. But land's one of those things, when you do have appreciation, it's going to be massive appreciation in the long run. So I think land's the best thing to buy, in my opinion, especially if you're holding long term. And the only way you can really get financing on land is if you have an existing dwelling on it. So if anybody's, I sound like a realtor right now, but if you're looking to buy land, always buy it with an existing dwelling, because usually the bank will give you financing for that. No bank, no Schedule A bank or even B bank probably will give you, financing on just land itself, unless you go private. So if you can find, let's say, even if it's a really bad house, a tear down, or like partially tear down, because a bank won't finance a tear down, they'll give you the financing on the land and the house itself. So you rent it out, you Airbnb it, whatever. It's paying off your mortgage, and then you're making massive appreciation on the land. I think it's one of the most overlooked things in real estate investing. I mean, builders have been doing it for decades, right? Think about it, right? Why aren't we doing it?
I mean, the biggest example, the Madamies of the world. Like he started banking land in Milton, like for the longest time,
decades ago, right? Yeah.
And a matter of fact, like we recently started going to Florida because we kind of branched off part of a business also into Florida. And matter of fact, Port St. Lucie, which is about if I were to put like maybe about a 2-hour drive from between Orlando and Fort Lauderdale, Port St. Lucie. You go there and you see Mattamy signs everywhere.
Yeah, I heard Mattamy was buying up land during the crash, 07, 08.
Yeah, in Florida, and they've got these massive developments happening.
Developing like crazy there.
It's insane, and you just go there and you're like they got Mattamy signs here. So it's again,
that's crazy.
The land game is huge, but also like when you think of lawyers, like I consider that a actual like legit profession, right? Lawyer, doctor, engineer.
Is it though? No.
A lot of these professions, right? Like we joke about this, Saurabh and I, is like we have clients, we're not going to name who, but clients that are doctors, they're not the smartest people. No, you know what I mean? And they're not smart at all. And some lawyers and engineers too, they're very good at what they do in their profession, but outside of that, they're clueless about how life works. But it's refreshing to see that, being in that profession, because you obviously went to school for it, you went to law school and, got a lot of education behind you, but you're also very smart when it comes to investing your money and growing a real estate portfolio. It's not common you see that.
So the credit that I'll give credit to probably my friends and their families around me, and definitely my mom. So the reason I say that is because growing up, a lot of my friends' dads were like, they worked in factories or they were cab drivers. And the one thing that I noticed is they would always buy like land or property. And I'm like, why are they doing that? The reason they were doing that is because they were accustomed to being landowners back in India, right? So my family, they weren't landowners in India. My mom came here when she was like 13. My dad was, he wasn't very well off. He struggled financially a lot in India. But the funny thing is, when I started seeing my friends' dads or parents investing in real estate, I'm like, this seems like something that I would love to do. So I'm like, as soon as I start making money, I'm going to start buying real estate. It's not that like I was inspired by any real estate investors. We didn't have social media back then. So now everyone's educated on real estate. It's a good investment. Yeah. So I was just literally studying my friends' parents. And then when I would talk to my mom about it, she's like, your grandfather, like her dad, used to actually be in real estate back in India way back, right? But a lot of the land, he just gave up when he left India. He's like, I really don't care. Plus, like, he also, their families owned property back in Pakistan during partition. So they were big in the real estate game until they lost a lot of it, right? So when he came here, obviously he had no involvement in real estate, but it was kind of in my blood already to begin with. So my mom's like, I think real estate is a great investment. You should definitely do it. My parents weren't buying residential real estate at that point. They weren't investing at all. So as soon as I started aggressively going into it, my parents were like, you know what, this is something that we'll do as well. Nice. So then they started investing in residential real estate. Yeah. So whereas my dad always believed in like commercial real estate or businesses, but for me, it was like, I think residential is a good long-term play as well. And then eventually studying things like learning about land, learning about multifamily. I learned that on my own. I didn't have a mentor or anything, right? Just now everything's free. Now you have YouTube, you have Instagram. So if you're not learning, it's the tools are free. You should be capitalizing on that right now. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's so true, right? Even the last guest we had, we were talking about this because, he didn't really finish any sort of education. And
nothing wrong with that, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that in this day and age, man. Like, it's, back when I was growing up, it was like very taboo to say, like, what do you mean? Like, you only have high school? Like, and then, But now it's just like, no, like, you could make millions.
It's funny. He actually talked about, being invited to George Brown to talk about entrepreneurship.
No
for an
way.
entrepreneurship course.
Yeah.
And
Can
he
you
told
imagine?
the instructor, he's like, just so you know, I dropped out of high school. He's like, yeah, talk about that story. He's like, but these people are paying you to be there.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
funny.
crazy.
It's
yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like it's so. Now you've got your law business, you've got your real estate business, and any other businesses that you've had as being a serial entrepreneur?
Not really. I mean, I help my family with their company, Rotator Products. So I help my dad with the legal aspects of the business. So it's funny because the building that we're in, the main floor is Rotator Products. The second floor is our law firm. So my parents are actually on vacation right now. And like if something needs to be done, I just go downstairs and I help,
that's
right?
awesome.
So Rotator Products is definitely something that's still, as long as my dad wants to do it, right? Yeah, as long as he wants to continue running the company, I'll continue to help him. But outside of that, I mean, real estate, we have 2 Airbnbs as well, but we're hands off. We have a management company that deals with them.
Nice.
So one in the East Coast, one here. But not really, man. Just Marathon Law, Rotator Products, and the real estate business. Would I like to delve into something else in the future? 100%. I would love to get into the hotel and hospitality industry. Restaurant business, I hear mixed reviews from everybody. People that are in it tell me that it's competitive. Some people tell me that it's lucrative. So I guess it just depends like what kind of restaurant you decide to open and where. Location is key, obviously. But I would definitely like to get into the hotel industry in the future because I think that's a lucrative opportunity.
And what's next for Marathon Law? Where do you see that going?
So we definitely, we're trying to create more of a company as opposed to just a traditional law firm. We definitely want to expand into other provinces. So Alberta is something that we're working on. Rohit, my partner, is licensed in Alberta.
Okay.
So right now we're collaborating with another lawyer there. So we do send her business in Alberta. I'm not licensed there, but Alberta is our next step in terms of opening up an office, which we're in the process of doing. So we can still do deals out there, but it's just under another lawyer. We definitely want to open up another office in the East Coast in New Brunswick because obviously I have that real estate experience there and I think it's a really, really good market and it's an undervalued market. And just open up another office in Simcoe County. I think that's going to be, right now we have a satellite, but open up another physical office because some people, they don't want to sign over Zoom. They want to meet you in person, right? So I just think maybe expand Canada-wide in terms of Marathon Law. Obviously not spread ourselves too thin because we want to focus on quality as opposed to quantity. But I think that's what's next for Marathon Law. Continue expanding while maintaining quality.
That's awesome.
Which is a challenge, right? For sure. Yeah.
Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, people can find me. You can DM me on Instagram. You can.
Unless you get you first.
You can. I'm pretty sure I have both your numbers. You can email me.
I think I've ever texted you. Well, maybe a few
you.
times.
Yeah.
But I always DM you because you always respond on
You
DMs.
can DM me. You can email me at nikhil@marathonlaw.ca, nikhil@marathonlaw.ca. You can call me. I'm not going to give my cell phone number on the podcast.
Don't do it.
But you can call me. My number is usually on our website. It's connected to my cell phone, so you can give me a call. But yeah, Marathon Law is our handle. Nick Bajaj, NIKHBAJJ is my personal Instagram handle, so you can always personally message me. But yeah, there's many ways to get a hold of me.
That's awesome, buddy.
Yeah.
Love it, brother.
Well, thanks again for joining Broswhoclose.
I appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
appreciate you
Thanks for
guys.
being over, man.
Yeah. Thank you for having
Good luck.
me. Yeah.
All right.